You could use a lot of different names to describe the shoot-'em-up genre that the recent release of Vampire Survivors has helped to popularize. Some people call them reverse bullet hells, survival games, or perhaps most simply, just roguelikes. The premise of these games is incredibly simple. You get dropped into a map, a bunch of enemies run towards you, and you've got to collect experience points from their bodies in order to level up, gaining new weapons and making them more powerful in the process. As time goes on, bosses show up along with the ever-growing waves of mooks. These games almost defy all logic. Their gameplay, again, is incredibly simplistic. You basically just walk around in an attempt not to get hit by the members of the advancing horde. They typically feature zero story and only rarely present with any multiplayer or online capabilities, and yet, despite all of those aspects that would be considered negatives in most any other game, as one that has played any of these games can attest, they are completely, almost terrifyingly, addicting. And I've played my fair share of Vampire Survivors, but the game I found myself addicted to this holiday season was 20 Minutes Till Dawn, developed by Flan. Now, in a lot of ways, 20 minutes is likely very close to what you've come to expect from one of these games. You have a cast of characters from which you can choose from, an arsenal of weapons for which to equip yourself with, and a few maps that, while featuring visually unique enemies, are fundamentally the same. As such, you would be completely forgiven for wondering what 20 minutes does that's worth making an entire video about it. And there's two things in that regard. First, I thoroughly enjoyed the game's combat system and presentation. Second, I spent way too much time playing it and need to use that time spent for something so I don't feel bad about myself, okay? 20 minutes has you shooting ghouls and collecting the experience they drop, as I said. Seriously, have the mobs in any of these games ever considered that the player would easily die if they didn't leave them the one resource that can make them stronger after they die? Anyway, upon leveling, you're presented with a number of options. You don't receive any new weapons, you've got to dance with the one you brought. Rather, you choose from a number of augmentations that affect how you actually deal with these mooks. You've got your standard gun upgrades, increasing damage and bullet amounts, a few passive options that deal damage in areas around you, and summons for when taking on these monsters is just a bit too scary on your own. These upgrades come in the form of trees. You've got to take one upgrade in order to get access to the others. Taking certain features in the same run also unlocks specific synergies, which usually make your attacks that much more lethal. Not only do your choices of the randomly presented augments change how you survive, so does your choice of character and weapon. Each character has a unique ability, such as Abby's ability to empty her clip in quick succession, or Diamond's massively increased starting health. Weapons such as the crossbow, which requires you to charge shots for maximum damage, are drastically different from the flamethrower. Additionally, there are rune trees where you can invest currency earned after each run, gaining passive bonuses to select offensive and defensive skills wherever you choose. What I enjoy most about this sort of mix and match system is that no character is precluded from using any loadout. They might be more geared towards one type of playstyle. Characters such as Scarlet, Spark, and Yuki, whose passive abilities play off the same fire, lightning, and freeze skills that can be trained through augments, will obviously benefit more from element-based investments, but that doesn't mean they can't succeed with a bunch of summons. Killing boss enemies results in the dropping of either a unique character-based upgrade or a tome. Here's the thing though, as is the case with a lot of these upgrades, you might not want them. Most of them feature some sort of drawback that offsets their benefit. You've got to pay a price for power, usually in the way of health, movement speed, or some form of damage ratio. While they might not seem like that much, they really force you to think about what trees you're skilling into. It is possible to effectively outright break your build, as I did here. This weapon is the magic bow, which pulls back fired shots when you reload. This is what happened when I accidentally took an upgrade that basically never made me run out of ammo. I won this run, somehow. Those drawbacks are just one of the ways that 20 minutes continually ramps the difficulty. With the completion of every run, you unlock a new level of darkness, which increases the difficulty. It was sincerely fun to have to rethink builds depending on said darkness level. Those seemingly small bonuses in the rune page, of which you get one per tier, start to become really important, and for as basic as it might seem in comparison to the other characters, Shauna's ability to reroll upgrade choices becomes really valuable when creating Exodia builds feels like a must. All of that contributed to a gameplay format that, while entirely familiar, felt fresh. You can't just stack as many upgrades as possible because you've got to be aware of what you're giving up for them. The goal is still effectively to break the game, to have so much nonsense on your screen that you can barely see, but you've got to be smart about how you get there. timing and prioritization of upgrades is a must, and for when you've grown so skilled that the increasing darkness is enough, you can try your hand at endless mode, which disables runes. Good luck. One issue that has arisen from this format, at the moment at least, is that there aren't actually a ton of build paths that can do well. This is less because there aren't a multitude of options, and more that, well, the cryomancy tree is completely broken. It stops enemies in their tracks, and later upgrades make it deal a ton of percentage health damage. It can make bosses outright useless, being best applied through an onslaught of bullets. The fact that in a lot of cases it feels like a necessity has led to bullet builds far surpassing just about anything else. At this point, completing a run without it should qualify as one of the game's achievements. This is then compounded by the fact that the Tome of Elements is the only tome out of the bunch that doesn't come with any drawback, so you're getting even more damage at the cost of nothing. Don't get me wrong though, this can definitely be fixed, and I'll actually touch on that a little later. If it wasn't obvious through what's been shown on screen, 20 minutes leans pretty heavily into the Lovecraftian theme. That goes for both the enemy designs and presentation. There are basically only a few colors in this game, varying shades of black, white, purple, I think there's a little blue, maybe it's green, I don't know, and red. Either way, it really helps to give off the sickly, demented vibes of its chosen material. From a strictly artistic standpoint, it's nearly impossible to beat this game. It's outright gorgeous. But here's the problem. This presentation, as much as I could gush over it, isn't really functional. Let me explain. All bullet hell games are a strain on the eyes. It's to be expected with how much is going on. But the one way that strain can be alleviated somewhat is through differing colors. There is no depth of color in this game, so you just get left staring at a bunch of white dots flying around a black background, and my god, does it kill your eyes. There are a few mods that add color to the game, and they look great and undoubtedly help, but they break every time the game is updated. Flan, my friend, I get it. This game's aesthetic is one of my favorites that I have seen in any game from AAA to indie in a long time. It's an absolute banger. But more than anything, I'd like to be able to play it for more than an hour before my eyes want to do nothing more than forcefully eject themselves from my skull. If there can't be some sort of official color support, at least let us turn off all the flashing on things like bullet hits and level ups. That alone would probably go a pretty long ways towards making it easier on the eyes. The good thing about 20 minutes is that it's still very much being developed. In the time that I was making this video, it was updated with a new character, with easily the most unique ability to this point, and a pretty sizable reworking to summoning trees, which definitely makes them a hell of a lot more playable. It also came with a few new mechanics and generally changed the way that many upgrades work with each other. Spray and pray with freeze is likely still king, but if there's these types of updates coming in the future, it likely won't be for long. I think you could already make an argument that summoning builds might be the way to go in endless runs, mainly due to the way that they can continuously scale more effectively, not to mention that they play a bit better without runes. 20 Minutes Till Dawn, like most of these reverse bullet hell games, for no explicable reason, is astoundingly cheap, costing just $5 on Steam. It might have a few flaws, but in my opinion, it's sitting on a foundation that could leave it as some of the best that the genre has to offer if properly capitalized on. The way that characters aren't pigeonholed and the numerous skill trees makes your choices have weight, bringing a level of interaction not seen in many of its cousins. With some time to iron out the kinks, and maybe hopefully to become a bit more accessible, it could very well turn into a game that everyone should own. If you're not convinced, the demo, referred to as 10 Minutes Till Dawn, is still available online, so you can give it a try for free. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to freezing these ugly bastards until they let me foolishly choose a tome that will probably break my build, because I literally just can't say no.